background checks. Jennifer, I know firms want to find out as much about prospective employees as possible. Can you talk a little bit about finding out about past employment and some of the questions that employers might ask that could get them in trouble?
Sure. Well, finding out about past employment is not usually very easy because most employers have adopted or should adopt policies where they don't give any information. It's a neutral policy where if someone calls and checks on a former employee, they just confirm the dates of employment and the position. And so you shouldn't look into too much into that if that's what you get when you're doing a reference check, because if they're, for example, if they're clients of mine, I would certainly be telling them to not be giving anything other than neutral references. But if you're talking about going beyond just the prior employment status and experience and more into criminal background checks, then that's when you really need to tread carefully. Although there's no federal law that clearly prohibits employers or firms from asking about arrests and convictions, the EEOC has been very consistent in advising people that using those records as an absolute measure to prevent an individual from being hired could limit employment opportunities in certain protected groups, which is when they get involved, and could lead to a discrimination claim.
Well, what about asking questions about things like traffic tickets or accidents if one of the things the employee might be doing is driving a company car? Are those kind of questions?
No, that's acceptable. You can ask things, for example, you can ask about convictions. You never want to ask about arrests. That just gets you into trouble. But you can always ask about convictions if they're related to the job function. So if, for example, you are hiring someone in your firm to be the accounting or finance person, you can ask about convictions about larceny or theft or embezzlement, because those are directly related to the position that person is being hired for. But if you're hiring someone who doesn't drive a company car and has none of those responsibilities in terms of finance and things like that, you really want to steer clear of questions regarding convictions. But in terms of past driving records, absolutely. If you have someone who's driving a company car, you certainly want to ask those questions because that could protect you down the road from, for example, a negligent hiring claim. If that's the person's job and they get into an accident because they are a reckless driver and the person who they hit goes back and finds out that they've got this long history and had a suspended license, well, that would potentially subject your firm to liability. So you can certainly ask those questions when it is directly related to the job being performed.
And I would think directly related to the job being performed also means that professional service firms can ask about things like disciplinary actions by a state registration board or even claims related to professional liability.
Yes, definitely. Again, because that goes to your potential liability, and it has a legitimate business purpose for the reason that you're asking. You know, for example, if you were hiring a general counsel in your firm, you'd want to know if they'd been suspended from the bar. Likewise, any architectural licensing boards, if you're hiring an architect and they have been suspended or disciplined in any way, you would want to know that before you hire them.
And that's legal to ask during the interview process.